Well, Paul, you signed the 3-year contract extension. I know that the conversations had begun in the summer and then it happened recently. At any point, over the beginning parts of the season with some of the challenges that were out there, did you have any concerns about this deal getting done?
No, I really didn't, and didn't think about it. So one of the most enjoyable things about working here is the line of communication between Mark Chipman and Kevin Cheveldayoff and myself. So we met in the summer, all agreed this is something that we really wanted to do. And as you've well documented, we had a whole bunch of things that became priorities here and still are. And then, you know what, having the information, I think, more readily to everybody, Kevin, spoke about what they were thinking. I talked about what I was thinking. He made an offer and we shook hands and that was it. So I think it's our 4th contract here, and I said it earlier, truly the entire process takes about 10 minutes, right? They're very fair, very generous to me and my family, and I was certainly eager and enthusiastic to sign on.
Right. You feel that this is a group, Ainsley, that has that ability to contend when you look at a bigger picture.
I do. And I've got,
what is it about it that gives you that confidence?
So there are 4 or 5 things that I would say you would want to work for the Winnipeg Jets beside that, right? Fantastic base, great ownership, great lifestyle here. It's been fantastic for my wife and my kids. But at the end of the day, and certainly at my age and my point in the career, you want to believe you got a chance to win. And I felt over the last 2 years, we certainly had, good teams here. But it's coming. Like the strength of this team when these players aren't 23 and 24, when they start to hit that prime, which happens here next year and the year after. And we'll see what we can do this year when we get healthy, because I think there's a lot more here than people know. We just haven't had the players in the lineup. But this will transition into a team that is going to be pretty darn good every night when you get out of the inconsistencies of youth and you get into the drivers being in their prime. So you just look at Mark Scheifele's play this year, the difference between him now, and he's a good player 2 years ago, no doubt, but he's a different man now. The things that he can do on the ice physically are quite a bit different than what he could do. That will be true for 7 or 8 of these guys, and they'll just get stronger.
Last season, many viewed as being a Stanley Cup contender. Don't think that coming into the season, even before the injuries, people didn't speak about this group the same way as before. It can be challenging, I would, as a player, to go from those expectations to this type of season. What's that like as a coach?
It's always easier in some ways on the coach. You have a real strong understanding of it. You can put up a lineup on the board and have a really good idea where we're at. We knew going into this summer that there was going to be a major shift. It was inevitable by these young players that we did bring in, put up a lot of numbers, which means they're going to get paid. So there's an adjustment period that has to happen. And then the unforeseen, right? The 2 would be, clearly Dustin Byfuglien not being here as a piece that you thought would be able to hold some of that back end together. And then the Brian Little injury, he's played 7 games for, so there's your number 2 center that's hasn't been part of your group. So those are 2 incredible challenges, but there's always been a keen eye to the core and what it was capable of doing. So we felt we come off 114 points, you get to the conference final and you think you're a pretty darn good team. But you also know that you actually have gotten quite a bit younger. We left 5 30-year-olds off that team, don't come back. So we got a younger and then younger again. So there's an awareness there that if you hit the Stanley Cup champions in the first round, you might have a challenge, and we did.
When you look at your coaching career, and you've been through so many different highs for it, has this been one of the biggest challenges that you've had this season?
This would be, I think, with what we just spoke about in terms of expectations and are they realistic, and then all of the unforeseen. Rarely do you find a team lose as many man games as we did, on top of kind of the bottom half of your team in a lot of ways. Those 3 players, not including Dustin Byfuglien, there was going to be an adjustment. It's been a real challenge. So the reasons for survival, I think, at this point are that core is still pretty darn strong. The leadership in the room has been steady at the helm. They've stayed in the fight, done what we needed to do. When we asked for more, they tried to bring it. They tried to lead.
You mentioned leading and Blake Wheeler, and that going into this season, he spoke about kind of his leadership style and some of the changes that he was looking to make. Have you changed this year?
Oh, for sure, right? And part of that is So great players make the players around them better. But I've had 2 or 3 Hall of Fame players. I think of Ron Francis and the impact he had on me as a player. Those players also really influenced the coach. And he had grabbed me on the ice one day and said, you got to be nicer to that guy. And I had my list of all the reasons why I didn't need to be. But he was right. So his grace as a leader is his pure ability to drive on the ice. And that at times can be intimidating, but then not so when he needs to pull back. He can put his arm around a guy, and I think he's even grown in that department. And I've watched it. I've watched how he's interacted with players, and I've watched the positive effect that he can have by not grinding nails all the time. I've tried to put that in my game a little bit and relax a little bit and take some pressure off them as well.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.